In school, we were taught formulas, historical dates, complex theories, but almost no one taught us the essentials, how to manage our own money. That's why today I want to show you a rule so simple it almost seems like a game, but so powerful it can change your financial future forever. The 50-30-20 rule. A practical compass that divides your income into 3 clear paths and, when applied with discipline, not only prevents your money from slipping away, but also leads you toward peace of mind, abundance, and, above all, freedom. Now think with me. How many times have you felt like your money is slipping through your fingers and at the end of the month you don't know where it went? If you've ever experienced that, leave it in the comments. Because accepting that moment of lack of control isn't a defeat, it's the first step toward building a different path. Stay until the end, because today you'll not only understand how this rule works, but also how to truly apply it to your life, with examples, figures, and strategies that very few people tell you. The 50% that sustains your life. The first major division of the 50-30-20 rule is the 50% allocated to basic needs. This percentage represents the foundation of your financial stability, ensuring that your life is supported on solid ground. Think of it as the air you breathe, invisible, silent, but absolutely indispensable. Without this 50% properly managed, everything else loses meaning. What do we mean by basic needs? Housing would be rent or a mortgage. Essential food would be the supermarket, not restaurants. Transportation would include gasoline, public transportation, or basic vehicle maintenance. Utilities such as water, electricity, gas, and internet. Healthcare equals medicine, insurance, and basic checkups. Minimum debt payments, because ignoring them only exacerbates the problem. This is where most people go wrong. What should be the solid ground of your budget becomes cluttered with unnecessary embellishments. A new television, a weekly restaurant outing, or paying for 3 streaming platforms you barely use aren't necessities, even if you try to justify them as such. If you earn $2,000 net per month, 50% corresponds to $1,000. That money should cover housing, food, transportation, utilities, and healthcare. Housing, $600. Food, $250. Transportation, $100. Utilities, $50. If everything falls within that range, you're balanced. But if your housing already consumes $900, then the 50% becomes unbalanced, and you begin to sacrifice other basic pillars. That's where the chain of financial problems begins. Living with 50% allocated to necessities isn't just a control technique. It's a way to set limits on the consumer society that constantly invites you to turn wants into supposed needs. The great challenge isn't earning more, but learning to live a lifestyle that doesn't suffocate you. Because it doesn't matter if you earn $1,000 or $10,000. If you spend 80% on disguised needs, you'll never break the cycle. If your lifestyle demands more and more money to sustain itself, then your freedom becomes more expensive and more difficult to achieve. Detect invisible spending. Money doesn't always disappear in a big impulse purchase. Most of the time, it slips away silently, drop by drop, until at the end of the month we wonder, where did it all go? We call this phenomenon invisible spending. These are those small amounts that seem harmless, but when added together, they can eat up a significant portion of your essential 50%. Common examples of invisible expenses. A $12 monthly subscription that you forgot to cancel. That $3 daily coffee, which turns into $90 a month and over $1,000 a year. That $6 taxi fare when you could walk 15 minutes. Small purchases at the supermarket. An energy drink here, a bag of snacks there, and at the end of the month, they add up to $50 or more. The problem isn't the coffee or the fast food. The problem is not realizing how much those accumulated habits represent. Imagine you have 3 invisible expenses. $3 for a daily coffee is $90 a month. $12 for a forgotten subscription is $144 a year. $6 for unnecessary taxi rides 3 times a week is $72 a month. In total, we're talking $162 a month, which is equivalent to $1,944 a year. Do you realize? With that amount, you could have paid half a year's rent, taken a course that increases your income, or started an investment fund. Invisible expenses don't just consume your money, they consume your financial attention. Because if you're not aware of them, you'll never be able to redirect that flow toward financial freedom. The most effective way to detect them is with a simple but powerful exercise. For 30 days, write down absolutely everything you spend, from $1 to $100. Do it in a notebook or an app. At the end of the month, review it and ask yourself, was this a need or a desire in disguise? Did this expense bring me closer to my financial goal, or did it simply quell a momentary urge? What you discover may be uncomfortable, but also liberating. Because by clearly seeing your leaks, you'll suddenly have the power to redirect them. The 30% that gives color to your life. The second block of the 50-30-20 rule is the 30% allocated to your desires, pleasures, and lifestyle. This includes outings with friends, clothing, technology, travel, entertainment, music, movies, hobbies, everything that adds flavor to life. And it's important to understand something. This 30% isn't a luxury, it's an essential part of financial balance. Because money isn't just for paying bills or saving, it's also there to remind us that we work to live, not to survive. The value of this 30%. Imagine a painting. The 50% needs are the canvas and the frame that holds the work. But the 30% are the colors, the brushstrokes that transform an empty space into art. Without this block, your life becomes routine. With it, you can experience joy, motivation, and memories that last forever. Let's say your net monthly income is $2,000. 30% equals $600. That money can be used for an outing with friends, $50, a couple of dinners out, $100, saving for a vacation, $200 a month, buying clothes you enjoy, $100, or paying for activities you're passionate about, such as classes, movies, or hobbies, $150. The trick is to keep it within the 30% limit. Because if that entertainment expands to consume 50% or more of your income, then fun starts to rob you of your peace of mind. True balance lies in enjoying yourself without going into debt. If your fun compromises your stability, it ceases to be a pleasure and becomes a burden. A trip financed with a credit card may seem like an unforgettable experience, but if it takes 12 months to pay it off with interest, the excitement turns into anxiety. Therefore, within this 30%, the key is to choose wisely. Ask yourself, does this spending bring me momentary happiness or lasting value? Am I spending to impress others or to enrich my own life? Money spent on experiences that build memories typically has a much higher emotional return than money spent on objects that soon lose value. Don't confuse austerity with fulfillment. Don't confuse pleasure with freedom either. The secret of this 30% is that it reminds you that you deserve to enjoy yourself, but that conscious enjoyment is much more powerful than excess. I accept success and happiness in my life. Write it in the comments if you're willing to enjoy your present without mortgaging your future. Rethink your desires. The 30% we allocate to lifestyle and entertainment doesn't mean reckless spending. On the contrary, it's the perfect space to practice the art of choosing wisely. Often, we confuse an authentic desire with a passing impulse. And that's the trap. We believe that what we want today will bring us lasting happiness, but soon we discover it was just a whim. The difference between spending and value. Not every desire is negative. On the contrary, well-chosen desires are what give meaning to money. The key is to ask yourself, does this expense bring me closer to the life I want? Or does it only calm a momentary anxiety? An example. An elegant dinner at a restaurant might cost $120. With that same amount, you could prepare a special meal at home for your friends, with wine, dessert, and an intimate atmosphere that generates memories. The former is a fleeting pleasure. The latter is an experience with deeper emotional value at the same cost or even less. If you allocate 30%, $600, of your monthly net income of $2,000 to entertainment, you have to decide how to use it. A $300 impulse shopping trip may bring you joy for a few days, but investing that same $300 in a photography or music course can give you a skill that will last a lifetime. The question is clear. What kind of enjoyment gives you a real return? The true power of 30% isn't in spending more, but in spending better. Because spending well is also a form of investment. Investing in your emotional well-being, in your relationships, in your personal growth. Every dollar you spend is a vote in favor of the life you're building. If you vote for superficial desires, that will be your life. If you vote for experiences and learning, you'll be sowing a more fulfilling version of yourself. The consumer society is designed to sell you desires disguised as needs. But when you learn to question, filter, and choose, you transform that 30% into the most powerful area of your budget. Because it's not about having more things, but about having more moments that truly matter. The 20% that builds your future. If 50% sustains your life and 30% gives it color, the 20% allocated to savings, debt repayment, or investments is the engine of your financial freedom. This percentage, although it seems the smallest, is what makes the difference between living trapped in the earn and spend cycle or starting to build a solid future. Money as a seed. Think of this 20% as seeds you plant each month. It may seem small at first, almost insignificant, but over time, those seeds grow into a forest that will provide shade, nourishment, and protection. Those who sow with discipline reap freedom. If your monthly net income is $2,000, 20% is $400. In 1 year, you will have accumulated $4,800. In 10 years, not including interest or investments, it will be $48,000. But if you put that money into an investment that earns you 6% compounded annually, in 10 years you won't have $48,000, you'll have closer to $66,000. That difference is almost $18,000 extra, not from working more, but from letting your money work for you. 3 paths to this 20%. 1. Pay off debt. Every dollar you set aside to pay off your debt is a dollar you stop losing in interest. It's like cutting the chains that bind you. If you pay off a credit card with 30% interest, you're earning much more than with any initial investment. 2. Save for emergencies. Building a fund of 6 to 12 months of basic expenses is like building a wall against uncertainty. Illness, unemployment, a global crisis. Nothing hits you the same when you have a financial cushion to back you up. 3. Invest in your future. Once you're debt-free and have an emergency fund ready, the 20% becomes growth capital. Stocks, real estate, index funds, even your own business. This is where the seed begins to multiply. The 20% isn't money you lose by saving it. It's money that buys you time and freedom for your future self. Every dollar you save or invest is one less day of dependency, one more day of autonomy, one more step toward choosing how you want to live. Because true wealth isn't just having money, it's having options. I accept success, money, and happiness in my life. Write it in the comments if you decide that from today on, your money isn't just spent, but rather sows a freer and more abundant future. Debt as an invisible chain. Debt is like a chain that seems light at first, but over time it rusts, hardens, and ends up becoming a shackle that prevents you from moving forward. Before thinking about investing, multiplying your money, or achieving financial independence, you need to cut those chains. The true cost of debt. When you have a credit card with a 30% annual interest rate, what you pay isn't just the money you borrowed, but double or triple it over time. A simple example. If you owe $1,000 on a credit card and you only pay the monthly minimum of $25, it could take you more than 10 years to pay it off, and you'll end up paying more than $2,500 in total. That excess, that extra $1,500, doesn't build your future. It only enriches the bank. Every day you carry debt, someone else profits from your efforts. The snowball strategy. The most powerful and emotionally effective method for freeing yourself is the so-called snowball strategy. 1. Make a list of all your debts from smallest to largest. 2. Pay the minimum on all of them, except the smallest, where you focus all your energy. 3. Once you eliminate that first debt, your motivation increases. You apply that money you freed up to the next one. 4. Thus, little by little, each debt eliminated becomes momentum for the next, like a snowball that grows as it rolls downhill. The psychological impact is immense. Each debt paid off is one less weight on your back, a deeper breath, a sign that it's possible. Freeing up to grow. Debts don't just drain your wallet, they also drain your mental energy. They rob you of sleep, freedom, and decision-making power. And most dangerously, they rob you of the sense of control over your life. When you eliminate a debt, you don't just gain money, you regain peace of mind. And with that peace, you can build your future with more clarity. I am prosperous and I attract wealth. Write it in the comments if today you choose to stop feeding others and start cutting those invisible chains that bind you. And now tell me, what debt would you like to eliminate from your life first? The fund that saves you in the storm. Financial life isn't a straight line. It's more like an ocean, sometimes calm, sometimes violent. And in the midst of that ocean, an emergency fund is the lifeboat that can keep you afloat when everything seems to be sinking. The true purpose of an emergency fund. A fund equivalent to 6 to 12 months of basic expenses is more than a savings account. It's your independence insurance, your peace of mind crunched into numbers. It's not about senselessly hoarding money, but rather about protecting your ability to endure when the unexpected strikes. A layoff that cuts off your income suddenly. An illness that forces you to stop working. An economic crisis that makes everything more expensive overnight. That money isn't dead money. It's living peace of mind. It's the cushion that keeps you from going into debt in the middle of a storm and allows you to make decisions from a place of calm, not fear. If your basic monthly expenses are $1,500, your goal is 6 months of $9,000, 12 months of $18,000. At first glance, it may seem impossible, but broken down into smaller goals, it becomes achievable. Save $500 a month for 18 months to have a fund for 6 months of expenses. Save $250 a month for 3 years to have it complete. The key isn't speed, but consistency. Every dollar that goes into that fund is another brick in the wall that protects your financial peace. True wealth. The world often measures wealth in cars, houses, or trips. But true wealth is measured by how long you can keep your life going if everything stopped today. That time, expressed in months, is your true wealth. Because freedom isn't always about having more, but about resisting better. Make your money work for you. Money has two purposes. Either you work for it your whole life, or you put it to work for you. The difference between someone who only saves and someone who invests lies in time and growth. Investing isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Many people think that investing is something reserved for millionaires, but the reality is that investing is the natural step after saving. Saving protects your present, but investing builds your tomorrow. Every dollar you put into an investment is like a silent worker who never sleeps, who doesn't complain, and who produces value day and night. Imagine you decide to invest $200 a month in a stock market index fund, which historically generates an average of 7% annually. In 10 years, you would have around $34,000. In 20 years, it would be more than $104,000. In 30 years, you would exceed $245,000. The secret isn't in the initial amount, but in time and consistency. Investing early, even with a small amount, has the power to multiply your possibilities.
Investment options. Index funds, ideal for those seeking diversification and low costs. Individual stocks, higher risk, but also the potential for greater returns. Real estate, a tangible investment that generates income and can appreciate in value. Your own business, the most powerful asset, because it depends on your creativity and discipline. The key is to understand that there is no perfect investment, but rather an investment that is consistent with your goals and risk profile. A seed today, a forest tomorrow. Investing is like sowing. You won't see immediate results, but with patience and care, each financial seed grows into a tree that will provide shade, fruit, and stability for your future.
Automate and simplify. The biggest enemy of saving isn't a lack of income, but a lack of discipline. Our brains tire out making decisions. What to eat, what to buy, how to respond, what to choose. Every day we fight hundreds of small mental battles, and by the time it comes to deciding whether to save or not, our willpower is often already worn out. The key is systems, not willpower. If you rely on willpower to save, sooner or later you'll fail. That's why the solution is automation. The same day you receive your salary, schedule automatic transfers to your savings account or investment fund. This way, the money is set aside without you having to decide again and again. Let's say you earn $1,500 a month and decide to automate 20% for savings and investments, or $300. If you do this manually, you run the risk of spending it before moving it. If you automate it, in 12 months, you'll have $3,600 without any mental effort. In 5 years, you'll have accumulated $18,000, plus the interest generated by your investments. The magic isn't in the initial amount, but in the frictionless consistency. Tools that simplify your financial life. Scheduled bank transfers, your best ally to make savings invisible. Roundup apps that turn the cents from each purchase into savings. Automatic debits from investments, index funds or retirement accounts that grow while you go about your life. When you automate, you make the financial habit part of your daily life without conscious effort. True discipline is invisible. Imagine that each month you put a drop in a jar. You don't notice the immediate change, but over the years, that jar becomes a river. Wealth isn't built with occasional big impulses, but with small, automatic decisions that are repeated every day. Educate, share, and transcend. Money isn't just numbers in a bank account. It's also culture, heritage, and mindset. Applying the 50-30-20 rule transforms your life, but passing it on to others can transform generations. The power of sharing financial knowledge. Imagine what would happen if every family taught their children from a young age to divide their money into needs, wants, and future. Instead of creating indebted and anxious adults, we would be building free, responsible, and conscious citizens. A World Bank study showed that people who receive financial education in adolescence are 40% more likely to save consistently as adults. This isn't just theory. Teaching others multiplies the impact of knowledge. If you apply the rule and manage to save $200 a month, in 10 years you'll have more than $24,000. But if you teach your child to do the same from their first income, even from a small job or allowance, the impact on their lives will be even greater. Not only will you have money, you'll have the freedom to choose, something many adults never achieve. Money also multiplies with awareness. When you share what you know, you sow invisible seeds in others. Perhaps a friend starts investing thanks to your example, or your partner manages to get out of debt because you implemented the strategy of prioritizing savings together. Every conversation can be a spark that ignites change. And here's the deepest truth. Wealth isn't measured only by what you accumulate, but by what you inspire. If your financial knowledge impacts someone else's life, your legacy is already growing. Nothing stops me. Everything drives me. Write it in the comments if you understand that your money can change not only your life,
but also the lives of those around you. The 50-30-20 rule isn't a rigid formula, it's a roadmap. A roadmap that reminds you that you can live in the present without destroying your future, that you can enjoy life without losing stability, that you can save without sacrificing the life you dream of. If all of this resonated with you, it's no coincidence. It's because you're ready to build a new financial path. And if you want to take the next step, join me. Subscribe and let's continue this journey together toward a life of abundance and freedom.